Everyone's heard the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yes? Yep. Well, dogs are my life's passion. And for the past 16 years as a professional dog behavioral therapist, I've been resolving some of the most severe and challenging dog behavior cases that exist by teaching people a new and untapped perspective on how to better understand the psychology of their dogs and how to communicate to them in a language that dogs actually comprehend. And I'm here to tell you with certainty, you absolutely can teach an old dog new tricks. All that's actually needed is a deep commitment to change and the right tools of communication. So how is it I go about teaching an old dog new tricks? Well, just to clarify, I don't actually teach dogs any tricks per se. What I do is transform and resolve behaviors that people have been unable to do themselves. Throughout the years, I've met countless dog owners who've thought it's just too late to change their dog's behaviors because they've tried just about everything, they're at their wits' end, and they've just resigned to the fact that, for example, when someone comes to their front door, they're just going to have to live with their dog, either embarrassingly jump all over their guests and maybe ripping their pants, or even worse, aggressively charge the front door, barking its head off, ready to attack. And why do dogs react like this? Because the dog thinks someone's actually there to threaten its pack, and that it is his job to protect them from a threat that doesn't even really exist. And why is that? Because it's actually only the Amazon driver delivering them another thing that they probably don't need. Right, Jenna? That's my wife. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. But what if we could learn to better provide for the basic needs of our dogs and learn how to truly communicate to them in their innate and primal language? Then our dogs will actually understand us. We will better understand them, and we could connect with them on the deepest and most primal level, and ultimately in the process, transform our relationships with them, as well as their unwanted behaviors as a result. And quickly. Why? Because nothing will actually get lost in translation. So I'm going to share something with you all, and this might be a bit shocking to some dog owners out there, but the truth is, dogs are actually not bilingual. Think about that for just a second. You see, the words no, down, off, leave it, are actually foreign to dogs and not what they innately comprehend. Because if they actually did understand those words, then all of the stress and embarrassment our dogs' issues caused us would have been resolved without the need for further help. Now, I'm not saying dogs are unable to learn verbal commands or hand signals, but the truth is, dogs communicate and understand only one language inherently. And guess what that language is? Hint, it's not English. Yep, it's dog. More specifically, dogs primarily communicate and understand voice tones and body language. You see, we've domesticated an animal that's descended from wolves, and as much as dogs have seamlessly become part of our lives and our families, and as connected as we are to them, both emotionally and physically, at the end of the day, the reason they don't really listen to us is because they just don't speak our language. So then, what is the root cause that determines our dog's behaviors? In other words, for example, why do our dogs suffer from separation anxiety and bark and howl the entire time we're gone? Or why do they behave aggressively towards people or other dogs? Well, on the most simplistic level, these behaviors are just a byproduct or a manifestation of the psychological state that our dogs live in. What do I mean by this exactly? Let me show you. So I break down a dog's psychological state simplistically into 3 zones: the green zone mental state, the yellow zone mental state, and the red zone. So the goal of this communication-centered training that I provide is our dogs live in the green zone mental state at all times, under all circumstances, for life. I define the green zone mentally as calm, relaxed, submissive, happy, feeling safe and protected, respectful, in control, and stress-free. Because it is from this mental state you don't experience the aforementioned unwanted, out-of-control behaviors. So then where do our dogs' negative or unwanted behavior issues manifest from? From the yellow zone. I define the yellow zone as any or all of the above. It is a dog that is either nervous, anxious, fearful, dominant, protective, unprotected, disrespectful, or just out of control because the dog experiences no rules and no boundaries. Well, it is from this mental state, ultimately, when a dog is triggered, then that is when they escalate into the red zone, and that is essentially the mental state that dictates our dogs to behave negatively. So again, if the goal of this training is that our dogs live in the green zone mental state at all times, under all circumstances, then the question is, how do we transform them into that state and keep them there perpetually? Well, as a behavioral therapist, the first and most important thing I teach people is the correction. You see, the correction not only resolves all of our dogs' behaviors, but at the root, it will transform our dog's psychological state from that of the yellow and the red zone and ultimately into the green zone mental state. How does this occur? Let me show you, because everything I teach is essentially mimicking what we're about to see. So in this opening shot, this is the most primal dynamic that our puppies will experience in its life. This is a time of development when they're with their natural-born pack. Now, this pack or family structure essentially consists of the mother and her litter of pups. So when a puppy is raised in an ideal setting, this is a critical time of development when the mother spends her time raising her pups as their provider or pack leader. So what exactly does she provide? She provides milk. A mother is very protective of her pups. Of course, she loves and nurtures her pups. But at some point, she teaches them how to behave. She teaches them rules, boundaries, social skills. And the thing is, as you're going to see here shortly, she's doing all of this in their language. And the thing is, they understand her. They immediately respond to her. And they absolutely respect and feel safe because of the mother. Now keep in mind, no one's actually taught her how to do any of this. It's all purely instinctual. But at some point, we take these puppies away from its mother, its pack leader, and away from its pack, and then we become our puppies or dogs' pet. And with that, none of us are actually mimicking the type of communication that the mother uses. To no fault of our own, we're just human dog owners. We're not actually dogs. And like I've said, most dog owners use verbal commands to either communicate or correct to their dogs. And that is essentially where the breakdown occurs. So just to set up this video before we see it, this will be an example of a mother correcting her pups for misbehaving. So when she walks into the room, her litter of pups are going to be jumping all over her, completely out of control in the red zone. So they're actually trying to feed off of her, and they'll be fighting for a spot to feed from. So when she enters the room, I want you all to watch a few things. Number one, watch how she corrects them for jumping all over her. 2, watch how quickly they respond to her. And 3, watch how quickly they go from completely out of control in the red zone, and in just a matter of a few seconds, they dramatically transform into that green zone mental state.
Jetzt werden wir gleich sehen, wie eine
So that's
Mami
the
ihre
red
Wette
zone.
gewinnt.
They don't realize this is not okay with her. That's a correction. That's a correction. And you can immediately see how calm they are and how they immediately stop jumping on her. Now down below, this one's going to try to sneak in. That is a correction. Now it might sound aggressive, but this is not an act of aggression. She's simply educating her pups, and that is the green zone that we talked about. And you can see their faces. This is all quite natural. She said, I'm over it. Now this one's going to try to sneak in. You'll hear her subtle growl.
Einer von jetzt wieder.
That's a correction.
Schlechte Idee.
Now she's going to give them affection on her terms when they're calm. Just a good mama. Now, just to offer some insight into what we just saw, that was an example of a mother teaching her pups boundaries. She's doing what I call claiming her space. You see, where the mother instinctively teaches her pups these boundaries, almost all dog owners I meet actually do the complete opposite. Because when our dogs or pups either jump on us, seek, or demand our attention, almost everyone just gives it to their dogs instinctively without second thought. Now, building bond and trust through love and affection is an absolutely critical aspect of building a balanced relationship. But when we don't establish any boundaries the way the mother does instinctively, then what we're essentially doing is spoiling our dogs. And as a result, losing respect and leadership in the process. And that is the genesis from where most behavior issues arise from. Because from our dog's perspective, if there are no rules and no boundaries, then there's no one in charge, there's no leader. And if there's no leader, then there's no protector, because it is the inherent job of the leader to protect its pack. And if there's no protector, then by default, our dogs will instinctively take over the responsibilities as the protector. And that is what generates fear, anxiety, and allows our dogs to feel unsafe. All because of this assumed inherent responsibility. And that is why our dogs live in the yellow and the red zone mental state. But by consistently implementing this form of primal communication like the mother dog uses, and we can then mimic this dynamic and recreate the role of pack leader that we took our pups away from. So with these proper tools of communication, it's absolutely possible to find harmony between the behaviors that we want and the sense of protection that our dogs want. And regardless of whether our dogs are young or older, when we use their language to connect with them, they're ultimately going to understand us. And I see there's absolutely no reason why you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my experience. It's been an honor. Thank you. Thank you.